Welcome back, everybody, to the Podecito podcast. I am your host, Real469. Thank you for joining us as we journey episode by episode through our collective favorite show. Of course, I am talking about the incomparable Las Vegas. We are sitting here on episode 19 of season 2, don't you know? One Nation Under Surveillance is the name of the episode. Interesting title there. This one initially aired March 14th, 2005. And the reason it aired March 14th, 2005 is because on February 28th of 2005, in Las Vegas's place, they played a Reality Stars version of Fear Factor. And the previous week, March 7th, in place of Las Vegas, they played two 90-minute specials, a 90-minute Fear Factor with twins and a 90-minute The Contender, which was trying to find the new boxer on the block. So those took the place of Las Vegas for 2 weeks. The IMDb rating for this episode is a 7.7 out of 10, or a C+. The Las Vegas Dash the Series rating for this episode, which you can access via the Wayback Machine. If you have a couple of ducats to toss in their bucket, go ahead and do so. The Wayback Machine is helping to archive the internet as much as possible, and they need your support. They rated it, Las Vegas Dash the Series rated it, a 5 out of 5 chips, giving it 100% or an A+. I don't know that I go that far. The aggregate rating between those two is an 8.85 out of 10 or a B+ rating. I don't know that I go that far, but we're here anyway. The episode was written by Vanessa Reeson and directed by Brad Turner. This is Brad Turner's last episode directing here on Las Vegas, so a bit of a transition here. This is not a terrible way to go out, but it's not a great way to go out either. Remember I was talking about we had the crest of golden episodes? This ain't one. This is fine. I think it's not the greatest, though. As we start this episode off, we are met, of course, with our first musical cue. If you're watching on the original version, Surreal, you have the original version? No, I don't have the original version. If you're watching on the original version, though, the song that you'll be hearing is An Honest Mistake by The Bravery. That's an interesting title for an opening song for this particular episode, and we'll see why a little bit later. If you're watching on the DVD, the song is probably Another Nervous Breakdown by Boss House. All one word. I say probably because it came up in the search on the apps, but there's no place online that I know of to listen to the song. It does not come up on any searches on Google or Bing or anything else. Even though the app recognizes it, there's no link to the song anywhere. It's another one of these house techno songs that's just disappeared into the ether of mid-2000s nebulation. There's nowhere to listen to it. Very frustrating. If you're watching on the streaming services, that would be Peacock and Roku, it is an AI production song, and it is very much an AI production song. It sounds like an AI production song. It's not the worst AI production song, but it's certainly an AI production song. And you can tell by how it ends in Ed's office. It ends artificially perfectly. This episode starts with us taking a good look at the Montecito. We see a banner outside, one of the electronic banners talking about the live concerts that you can experience at the Montecito. And a bunch of reporters are out front at the welcoming station. And we see Mike and Ed make their way through. And Ed, in particular, introduces himself to what is a sitting senator here who's come to visit the Montecito for a spell. His name is Billy Cole.
There's the line off from Montecito.
Thank you. Call me Billy, please. I hear people say Senator Cole, I start looking around for my father.
Right, that's not exactly Ed's forte, but, although he should know exactly what's happening. He was just taken a little bit off guard, I think. So that awkward handshake is going to allow us to whoosh through the casino floor down to see three of our queens, Sam, Mary, and Delinda. And Sam doesn't quite understand the fuss over the senator, local politician, etc. And so essentially Sam is going to help usher in some exposition courtesy of one of my favorite queens, Mary, and she talks about the lineages of the Cole family, how Billy Cole's father is a senator, has been the longest senator in Vegas history or Nevada history, and so he's basically taking up the tradition, essentially setting him up to be the new Kennedy. And not essentially, deliberately doing it, because Delinda actually says it.
Kennedy's in cowboy boots, Southwestern aristocracy. And he's totally hot.
And so that does a couple things. What that does, A, is it establishes this Billy Cole guy and gives you a little bit, so you kind of understand, you can mentally fit him into a real life counterpart, a Kennedy, whether that be JFK or JFK Jr. had he still been alive, etc. A young, we've seen that a million times before, or at least a few times before, a young new politician with some family lineage who comes into the family business, that which happens more often than you are aware of. And I do want to say one thing here at the beginning of this episode, just to get this out of the way. This does have to do with a character that's a senator. I will, once again, like I did in What Happens in Vegas Stays in Vegas, the second episode of the series, we will not be discussing politics, real life politics on a molecular scale here. There will be some analogies to make. There will be some real life instances to draw from that will pop up in this character, but we won't be discussing that. We will be discussing the character, or at least we will be discussing that in the terms of the character only. So I don't care which side of the fence you're on. Enjoy Las Vegas, baby. That's what you're here for. Danny comes in and talks with the Queens, and he sees that Senator Cole is coming over to the group because Senator Cole recognizes Danny. Seems they're old Marine buddies, and Delinda she's already shown her infatuation, but the fact that he comes over and knows Danny, and we can see that he knows Danny, is something that certainly sparks her interest. And they trade ranks with each other, captain, sergeant, etc. And another thing that this does is it establishes his relationship with Danny. So in the course of, I would say, 2 minutes maybe, we've established this character as a pivotal character to this episode, and it's felt natural, right? Politicians go to different cities all the time. Vegas is a large city. Politician will stop in Vegas, of course, if they're not trying to hide from something. And so this is a media event, and the casino will allow that to happen because it's, generally speaking, halfway decent publicity for the casino. You know, everybody comes here, etc. And any news is good news as long as, you know, you can work it the right way. Certainly in 2005, I was going to say 2005, like I'm very pretentious. I'm not that pretentious, but I was going to say it like that. So we might as well talk about the Senator Cole. Obviously, he's going to be a big, important role in this episode, so we might as well get him out of the way. That is Stephen Eckholt. Stephen Eckholt has a bit of an IMDb. He starred in Between the Darkness and the Dawn in 1985. Great year. Fantastic year. That's a TV movie. As student in Jack Parrish's class. He then does, how about this for foreshadowing, an episode of
It Floats Back to You.
That's right, The Love Boat. We'll be making another run in 1986 as Eric Matthews. Not that Eric Matthews. Not the, although he is.
Oh, when a crime breaks out, all the cute girls shout, get the good-looking guy. When there's a crime out there, he's gonna comb his hair, cause he's the good-looking guy.
Yes, he is. But that's not the Eric Matthews that he plays. He plays Eric Matthews in The Love Boat. And I bring up The Love Boat because Love Boat, very much like Las Vegas, essentially one of the successors to The Love Boat, in that you bring guests into the central location, they interact with the crew, and you get to see their adventures with the crew and the crew's adventures with these new people, all in this central location, and it works with the different people that pop in and out. He was in About Last Night as Man in Bar in 86. That's an interesting movie to watch in your 20s. It's I'll not do much for you trying to have a decent relationship there. He guest starred in 21 Jump Street for an episode as Lance Shallon alongside the DeLuise boys and James LeJour's TV wife Holly Robinson Pete. He did 10 episodes of Melrose Place. Why did he do 10 episodes of Melrose Place? Because Las Vegas loves its soap opera actors. He played Robert Wilson in that. He also played Patrick Flanagan and Cleland in 9 episodes of LA Law. So the boy is usually he's usually brought on to play the good-looking, suave guy, even as a kid actor or a younger actor who's brought on to play the good-looking guy, and that's pretty much what he's brought in to do here as well. 8 episodes of The Monroes as James Monroe. He did 3 episodes of The Practice alongside future star of Las Vegas, Laura Flynn Boyle. He was ADA Chris Kelton. He was in Love American Style in 99. Apparently they did a TV movie style version of Love American Style as Guy in segment Love and the Blind Date. And I bring that up because, again, when it comes to romantic stuff, sometimes Las Vegas can have the vibe of Love American Style, the kind of tone of Love American Style. The Love American Style was a strictly anthology series. Sometimes that comes into the world of the Montecito, and it works. He does this episode of Las Vegas as Senator Billy Cole. He then, not long after that, goes on to do, or actually a little bit before that, he goes on to do 5 episodes of The West Wing, where he plays Doug Weston. And I bring that up because apparently they started bringing him in those kinds of roles around this time of a politician or higher up kind of guy in either politics or the legal profession. He does a lot of lawyer work too. We saw that on not Boston Legal. We saw that on The Practice. Keeping with the Vegas tradition, he does an episode of CSI. He does Bones, which also has a very similar vibe to Las Vegas. The latest thing you can see him in is A Taylor's Story, which is a short in 2016. Actually, the latest thing you can see him in are a couple of shorts. But the latest thing that's probably full length is The Paper Boat as Dr. Goldberg. That is Stephen Eckholt. You've seen his pretty face everywhere. He is a very charming looking, handsome looking man, and that's going to come into play with this character. So we move over from that to Nessa speaking with Mike and Ed as she just got off the phone with somebody who wants to lay down his entire life savings on one bet on the roulette table, red or black. Now, mind you, again, this is 2005, where most of the roulette tables in casinos were double zeros. You had the high rollers with the European roulette of single zero, but most of them were double zero back then, meaning that essentially he's looking to double his bet to do either red or black. Nowadays, they're triple zeros, which is a scam. Don't do the triple zeros. And they will hide the triple zero as the company logo. Don't do that. Anyway, that's your lesson for the day. His entire life savings is $180,000. That $180,000 equates in today's money as $297,291.24. Ed very quickly says,
So one spin for $180,000. Yeah, we'll take the bet. Mike, would you please make sure that the senator and his people are very well taken care of, okay?
I'm all over it, boss.
Is there something going on between you two that I should know?
No?
Mike? We were going this way. Right.
What's that we see? Is there a little seed getting planted right there, huh? Remember what we saw? Is that the end of Tainted Love? What do we... Anyway, Ed goes into his office and he is met with the private investigator that we saw at the end of that other episode, My Beautiful Laundrette. And she's come in with what she has found with Sam over the last few weeks, essentially saying that Sam has been going to the projects of Las Vegas. Every city has projects. And she has been seen in the area with known gang members. And we see pictures of her. Actually, we see almost video footage, but pictures are presented to Ed. We are seeing it from the camera's point of view, where she comes in and she interacts with people who live there now. Does that mean something? Does that not mean something? It doesn't necessarily mean anything, but she says,
maybe it's nothing,
but
But what?
the area is known for its major drug activity. And knowing of your previous concerns of Miss Marquez's involvement with the Juarez cartel, I just...
Listen, I'll tell you what, Anna, I'll take it from here. Thanks for coming. I'll speak to you real soon, okay?
Sure.
Thanks.
And that's the last time we're going to see Anna in Las Vegas. Anna was played by Stephanie Chow. Stephanie Chow doesn't have the longest IMDb, but this is actually the last thing that you could see her in is Las Vegas on the IMDb front. The first thing she's credited for is as a stripper named Jasmine in the TV movie Heat, Vision, and Jack. She did an episode of Son of the Beach as Laika. I bring that up because Son of the Beach was the follow-up series from Tim Stack, a.k.a. Dick Dietrich, as a nightstand from Dick Dietrich. It's a takeoff of Baywatch. Still hilarious. The same way he skewed talk shows with Nightstand, he skewed Son of the Beach in 2000s. That's the same thing. You might most recognize her from Little Nicky as Angel Number 3. If you saw Little Nicky, you're one of the few people outside the Sandler family who did. And then she did a few other things, and the last thing you can see her in is actually this episode of Las Vegas. That's Stephanie Chow. Thanks for visiting the Montecito. That interaction leads us to the intro, which is the best damn intro in the business. If your streaming company asks you if you want to skip the intro, you can if you want to. You can also skip that streaming service. You can. We've done it before. Amazon looking at you. But you don't have to. It's just the best damn intro in the business. So after the intro, we then go back to the casino floor and we see the reporters clamoring to get shots of the senator. And the Kings, as they look on, they talk about his life and being in the spotlight, etc. And Mike brings up some interesting points about the guy, essentially that he's probably been bred to be president.
You think Billy Cole will be president someday?
Could be.
I mean, he's certainly been raised for it. I can't believe you guys served together, but you gotta wonder what a guy like Cole will be doing in the Marines besides sort of padding his resume. You know what I mean? Like, he was already running for president way back then.
The guy's dedicated his life to public service. In my book, that's a good thing.
Look, man, I don't mean that
Billy Cole has been very good to me. Okay? In fact, he saved my ass more than once.
So, with that, that's a very important little snippet there. First off, again, it reestablishes the relationship between Danny and Billy and their backstory a little bit. He saved Danny's life more than a couple of times. But Mike does bring up some interesting points because that does happen a lot. That does happen a lot. Where a politician, especially a young politician, where actually not a lot, that's usually how it happens. So presidents don't come from nothing. There's never been a president that came from especially certainly not in the modern era. There's never been a president that's come from absolutely nothing. Whatever story they tell you about coming from absolutely nothing is not entirely true. They generally, somewhere along the very young, they related to somebody, they know usually relation, almost always related to somebody who gets them in or already has a lineage or whatever, and they're on a track that leads to the presidency. They, you know what I mean? No president's ever graduated from El Camino Community College. You know what I'm saying? They graduate from Harvard. They graduate from Yale. They graduate from Wharton. They graduate from, the highest of they graduate from Ivy League places. So and before they get to the Ivy League colleges, they go to top flight private schools. So there is a padding or military schools. There is a padding of the resume the padding of the resume starts early for that kind of position, and usually is one of the perks that is given to their parents from being in this industry and that line of work and that this and that and that this and that. So Mike's not wrong, but we only touch on that really quickly because we have Mary and Nessa, my two favorite queens, coming together to introduce ourselves to Dan Clayman, who's coming in to bet $180,000 on one spin of the roulette wheel. This guy, he auctioned off his belongings on eBay, And he says that the hardest part was finding a casino that would actually take his bet. But he just happened to come across Big Ed DeLine on the right day, and Big Ed DeLine is more than willing to take that bet. Let's talk about the actor that's playing our boy. Dan is played by veteran character actor Jerry Burns. Jerry Burns here is a little bit different than his character. We'll later find out that his character talks about having a super safe life. Well, Jerry Burns doesn't quite have that in his bones. He is a fanatic of extreme skiing, wakeboarding, and surfing. So he's a bit of a thrill seeker. Jerry's been in a lot of stuff in his career. You have seen his face everywhere, no matter how it's changed. His first credited role was in The Psychiatrist for an episode in 1970 as Steve, a therapy group member. He then goes on to do episodes of a lot of stuff, including 4 episodes of Max Headroom, some detective TV shows. He does The Gambler Returns, The Luck of the Draw, as Cade Dalton in 91. I want to bring that up because, the gambling theme. Where I first recognized him from, and where a lot of people first recognized him from, is from the 90 episodes that he did of Dear John, alongside our very own Harry Grainer, a.k.a. Gunther Erfugeral. Yes! He played Kirk Morris in that episode, a sort of ladies' man guy his issue was that he was a ladies' man. He did 18 episodes of The Mommies as Tom Booker. From that moment on, he was a sitcom guy, generally speaking. He did a lot of those shows, including like Just Shoot Me, etc. He also did an episode of For Your Love, right, as Andy Winston, alongside our very own James LeJour. He does this episode of Las Vegas, then a year later does Dr. Vegas. Buddy, times are tough, huh? He does an episode of Psych. A lot of people might recognize him from that. He does CSI, keeping with the Las Vegas tradition. Yada, yada, yada. I did it again, didn't I? I did the yadas. Yada, 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 Yep, I did it. All right. Yada, 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 he does Hawaii Five-O! The Scotty Conn version is Spencer Madsen for an episode. He also does Burn Notice as Anson Fullerton. This is about the time. So after this, he really starts getting into playing villainous-ish more type roles, and I think he looks less like a suave debonair, devil-may-care sort of vagabond as he does villain to casting directors, probably. He does an episode of Lucifer. He does NCIS LA, and the latest thing you can see him in is 2 episodes of FBI as Duke Hoyle. And he's got something coming up later this year, an episode of Wonder Man, the TV miniseries. That's Jerry Burns. And Jerry Burns here is playing a guy who we're going to find a little bit more about, but he's very inspirational to one of our queens.
Odds are my business, Miss Holt.
Oh? What do you do?
I'm an actuary. I use statistical models and probability to determine insurance rates.
So, him betting all his belongings on eBay is part of the story of the guy that this character is based on. This guy, Clayman, is based on a real person named Ashley Revel. And Ashley Revel did this in 2004. We'll get more into his story as this episode progresses because there's some stuff that lines up. There's some stuff that doesn't quite line up. But yes, so Mary says you auction off all your stuff on eBay. That's a truncated version of Ashley's story. So Ashley did sell off all his belongings, including his clothing. But he also auctioned stuff off. He also raised money. And he also auctioned off his legal name, changing his legal name to Ashley Blue Square Revel on behalf of a sponsor that gave him a little bit of extra money to sponsor this gimmick. So he didn't just auction off all his stuff. He also got a little bit of help and donations and stuff from certain people. So he got some help to get to the part where he decided to auction his stuff off. Now, Ashley auctioned off all his stuff and came into the casino with $135,000 US at the time. That $135,000 US, when Ashley auctioned it off, or raised it in 2004, in 2005 money equates to $139,573.85. So it increased by about 3% in the year, or at least the value of it increased in that year. But in 2025 money, Ashley raised and bet $230,522.68. And so that's all we'll get into on Ashley's story so far, as we have to talk about Dan's story as he's setting it up. So he is in insurance, and he's an actuary. This guy, not necessarily Ashley Revel, this guy is an actuary, and he sits in front of spreadsheets and he crunches numbers on probabilities, and he says,
because all my life I've taken the safe path, the middle road. And you know what I found out?
What's that?
It's boring. And if I have to live this safe average life for another 40 years, I'll die of boredom. So, for once I'm gonna do the opposite of what the odds say. I'm gonna risk everything, and whatever the outcome, at least I'll have had a real, genuine thrill. At least once.
Wow.
Luis.
That is that's not the perfect story to melt Mary's heart, but it's one of the perfect stories to melt. The perfect story to melt Mary's heart is high school sweethearts who fell in love and are still in love to this day. That's the perfect story. But that's a good one. That if you tug on emotion with Mary, you got her. And our boy Clayman here definitely has her. We then go over to see Ed speaking with Luis, as he's talking that he just met with the senator and had a little discussion about the senator's dealings with cops. But Luis is looking for Danny, and he can't quite find him. Ed doesn't quite know where he is either. We find out where Danny is. He's up speaking with the senator, and Danny is there to quote-unquote grab a beer with the senator, but instead Billy just wants to do it in the room. That way he doesn't have to deal with the press, etc., people looking on at him, and stuff. So they start talking about the past, how stuff has been going, how Danny ended up in Vegas. And you can see here that the senator may not... the way the senator talks about Danny's job does bring something up.
So, how'd you end up back in Vegas doing security?
Surveillance and security at a multi-billion-dollar company.
Ah, okay. Well, just an interesting choice. I just figured a mind like yours, capable of so much. No, I mean, I nominated you for OCS because I saw that exceptional promise.
And again, if there's anything that I can do for you in return.
So, the senator thinks Danny can do better. The OCS, by the way, is the Officer Cadet School, which is a training program designed to elevate and develop future Marine Corps officers. So, essentially, he wanted to set Danny up to have a higher paying job, higher ranking job in the Marines. And Danny instead decided to move on, and the senator congratulates Danny on the Silver Star.
You heard?
Yeah, through my father. He's on the Senate Intelligence Committee. What you did over there, Danny, proud of you.
I like them bringing back the Silver Star aspect. I like that we see Danny's progression with accepting that he got the Silver Star. Maybe not earned it, whatever he may feel of it. His acceptance rate of it is different than it was. There's progression there. I like to see the progression. He never liked talking about it. Then we see that he's been talking with somebody about what happened over there that affected his relationship with Mary, obviously. And we see here that he, at least with another Marine, or someone who was in the Marines, even if he's not still there or wasn't there at the time or whatever, still is able to speak about it, if not speak about it, but accept it at least. Like, he's not flying off the handle. You see him, he still has a faraway look when it came up, but he's accepting of, he doesn't even say you're welcome, but he's not outright rejecting it anymore, which for Danny, from what we saw earlier, is definitely progress. Let's let the dealer shuffle the deck for a second and we'll be right back.
I assume you're interested in large amounts of money.
It's Vegas, who isn't?
If you like the podcast and you want to help support it, you can buy me a coffee, send a cash app, or join our coffee, KO-FI, and or Patreon. Just search The Podecito on all those platforms. So Mary walks past a gaggle of press that are walking by because apparently Clayman's bet for his life at the Montecito has hit the papers. The headline is about Dan Kleiman, but the story about Maggie Stein is not. It is about Nevada looking into abuse cases with priests in the Catholic Church. So clearly not about our boy here, but the headline, Man Bets Life at Montecito, and the picture actually is. It was picked up by the AP, and now our boy's an overnight sensation. And so we whoosh through the casino, and we see him getting escorted by Mike away from the press. Meanwhile, Ed is being hounded by a producer who wants to do a 2-part television event following this everyman.
What I'm proposing is a 2-part television event following this everyman.
Clayman.
No, everyman's better. Anyway, we follow him as he bets his life at the Montecito. Get your title, huh?
So Ed doesn't want to do it, but the BBC did do it with our boy, Mr. Revel. So the BBC did, in fact, produce not only a special, but a reality show following him and this whole aspect of it. So that is one deviation from our boy Clayman here, is that it was actually done in England. They actually went ahead and did it. And so the BBC show was called Double or Nothing, and it inspired Simon Cowell, yes, that's Simon Cowell, to create his own show, game show, called Red or Black. And it ran for 2 seasons or series, as they call it across the pond, over in the BBC. So another deviation there. But Ed doesn't necessarily want to do it.
Of course, we'll give you a generous location fee for shooting in your pits. Close everything off. Something in the neighborhood of, say, $10,000.
$10,000? See that pit that generates 5 times that in 5 minutes, and you want to shut down my entire casino? I don't think so.
The $10,000 that Ed was offered by the producer in today's money equates to $16,516.18. Ed says in 5 minutes that it would generate, in today's money, $82,580.90 in 5 minutes. Oh, well, that's a lot. I can understand why you wouldn't want to sacrifice that. But it is a little short term, because one would think that if this goes particularly well, then it's good publicity for the Montecito to have all over. And if people decide they want to watch it, what they're watching is the Montecito in the background the whole time. And it'll make them want to go to the Montecito, which, as we fans of Las Vegas know, works. Because we've all been dying to go to the Montecito since we saw Las Vegas for the first time. We may have even been to Mandalay Bay, but we still want to go to the Montecito. So our producer friend says that Gavin Brunson told him that he could go ahead and do it.
No thanks.
Okay, Gavin assured me himself that...
Gavin Brunson?
Yeah, your boss and I, we go way back.
Way back. You're 12.
Gavin loves the idea, assured me you'd make it happen, so... Why don't you give him a call? Work it out. Meantime, I've got locations to scout.
Oof. Ed is not feeling confident about this whole thing, and now he's got an issue in dealing with Mr. Brunson. But Nessa comes and she asks a question, what if he loses?
But I was thinking, what if Clayman loses? The Montecito looked pretty awful if we took the poor bloke's life savings.
That is correct. But maybe.
So it seems like Ed's got an idea. But as Ed's got an idea, Nessa and Sam are talking because Sam's got a whale with some food allergies, and she needs to meet with Gunther ASAP. But Gunther can't make it until 3, which one would think would be okay.
Don't worry, he said he can meet you this afternoon around 3 o'clock.
No, that doesn't work for me.
If you have to meet with Gunther, 3 o'clock is the only time he can do it, so I suggest you change your schedule.
Oh, really? Is that what you suggest? Well, I can't change my schedule because I have something very important to do. You know what? I'll handle it.
And Delinda, very rightly, is confused by Sam's reaction to just having to deal with the food issue a little bit later. Like, why is it such a big deal? Well, we'll figure that out. But Sam, a little snappy there at Delinda, and we'll figure that out. Danny's in surveillance, and Senator Cole comes up to talk to him about something very important with a manila folder in his hand.
I'm being blackmailed. I swear to God, somebody set me up.
Ruh-roh. Again, not anything in particular, but that is a not uncommon scenario when it comes to politicians. Danny is looking over the pictures and trying to figure out exactly what is going on with this woman that is in the senator's lap.
But your hands are all over her here.
I was trying to push her off, and I did, and then I showed her the door. Danny, somebody is trying to set me up.
So what do you think they want? Money?
No, they want me to drop out of the next election, leave public life. This is exactly when they do it, you know? The idea is to take out the rising stars before they make it to the national stage.
Kind of. The idea would be to take out the rising stars before they make it to the national stage if they can't buy the national stars. If they can buy the national stars, or if they can buy the rising stars, they'll let them go to that. That's how you get there. So, I don't know about you. You tell me if at this point you're believing Senator Cole's story. Like, let me know if you believe. Comment if you believe Senator Cole's story at this point in the game. Me not so much. But Danny's going to try to figure out exactly what he could do to help the senator, see if he can track her ID or something, and keep it between them, obviously. We come downstairs and we see that, or we come to the floor rather, and we see that Nessa and Ed are talking about what they can do for Clayman and how they can help him just in case he loses. And that is by offering him the floor car. We saw earlier that Ed was kind of looking at it in reference to exactly what they could do for him. As we come into Belisara, we do hear some music here. So the music that we hear in the background of Belisara on the original and the DVD, I can't place it. I wrote down production music, but with a question mark, because on the other incarnations, it's an actual song. So that makes me think that they licensed the song to play in the background of Belisara in this scene on the original and or DVD version, but this is the same song. So it's the original and DVD version has another licensed piano song underneath it, but it's gone into the void. Can't place it. So on Peacock or Roku, the song that comes up is Better Things to Do, parentheses, as heard in Kinsey. Forget Kinsey. It's heard in Las Vegas, baby. And it is by Casey Clanton. K-A-C-E-E, Clanton, C-L-A-N-T-O-N, is the song that's playing on the streaming services as Ed and Nessa meet with Mr. Clayman. So Ed and Nessa meet with Clayman and are about to offer him the consolation prize just in case the roll doesn't go well and he comes up not a winner at the roulette table. But as they do...
So we're going to offer
I'm going to have to interrupt you there, my friend. Any offers for Mr. Clayman go through me.
And you might be...
I'm his agent, Sandy Schultz.
His agent.
So, you have an offer for my client?
Yeah.
Yes, his agent. And Nessa brushes it away like, oh my gosh, this guy. But again, the real life guy, Ashley, did have sponsors, did set up the reality TV show stuff. So he definitely had somebody on his staff working for him, probably on a contingency basis. That guy, Sandy Schultz, is played by character actor Vincent Guastafaro. Vincent Guastafaro has been around for a while. The first credited role that you've seen him in, or that he has on his record, is Lou Grant for an episode. That's a hell of a thing to get cast in first. You know what I'm saying? He plays in Santa Barbara for an episode as a policeman because Las Vegas loves their soap opera actors. He guest stars in Wise Guy. He guest stars in Frank Nitti, the Enforcer, a TV movie. Again, as this time as Al Capone and Frank Nitti. Wise Guy as John Kousakis. This guy had a tendency to play those kinds of guys, the mobster type guys. He was in the TV miniseries Sinatra, keeping with the theme there, as Hank Sanicola. He guest starred for an episode on Lois and Clark: New Adventures of Superman as Belzer, alongside current recurring cast member Dean Cain. He did an episode of Melrose Place. Of course, he had to do at least one episode because, again, he had to another episode of something else because Las Vegas loves its soap opera actors. Did VIP because we got to have a reference to VIP in one of these. He does this episode of Las Vegas as Sandy Schultz, as you just heard. He does an episode of Vampire Mob as Father Eddie. Vampire Mob. Boy, that sounds... it's a series? It's not just a knockoff B movie? All right. The latest thing you can see him in... So I guess he started doing a turn here because he played the father. He plays a couple of cops. So the latest thing you can see him in... Actually, there's a series of them. He's Sheriff Rick Cologne in the Never Hike series. Never Hike in the Snow, Never Hike Alone, The Ghost Cut, and Never Hike Alone 2. So yeah, that's the latest things you can see him. And the latest of that was in 2023. And he's got a couple short things in post-production right now. That is our boy Vincent Guastafaro. And Vincent is... the thought of Sandy being an agent, or any kind of agent really, at this point for Clayman is annoying Nessa, and he is getting in Ed's face, which is not the best thing entirely to do. But he's listening to Ed's offer of the car, but his negotiation skills may not be the greatest.
In the event that Mr. Clayman's spin at the roulette wheel is unsuccessful, we are prepared to offer him, let's call it a consolation prize.
Which would have to be kept confidential. Obviously, we don't want to mess with the prepared to lose everything concept.
Which again, in real life, maybe the concept wasn't messed with at the time, but we later found out he actually did have help. And may or may not have necessarily had to lose everything if he won or lost.
What's the price?
It's a vehicle.
What vehicle?
A brand new station wagon.
Whoa. This thing must be on the fritz. I thought I just heard you say station wagon.
Yes, I did.
All due respect. We've already been contacted by 4 other strip hotels, all wanting a piece of the action. We got heat, baby. And if you want a piece of this flamin' Clayman...
Dan, Sandy. Just call me Dan, okay?
All I'm saying is, Dan Clayman is worth more to the Montecito than a station wagon. Okay?
Okay.
And so Sandy Schultz gets the old Ed DeLine handshake and Flamin' Clayman. That is a terrible nickname. That sounds... Flamin' Clayman! Oh, get the Flamin'! The Flamin' Clayman! Oh, I'm hurting in my flame. My Clayman is flaming. Oh. That's the best you could do. Now, here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. If our boy Clayman was a chef, that would be a great name for, like, you know, popcorn shrimp or something. You know what I mean? Some seasoning. That'd be, flaming claiming. Some barbecue sauce, some marinade or something. You know what I mean? But that is just a terrible. That's just awful. That's just bad. And I think Clayman knows that too. As we move on from that scene, we see Danny in surveillance, and he's looking over the footage of the young maid that went into Senator Cole's office. And we can see that the maid is walking in as she's going backwards from the regular entrance of the Montecito, and that strikes Danny as interesting. So we whoosh up to the casino into the senator's room, and Danny comes in and talks to him about that because she seems to know where the cameras are. Her head is down. She's walking in through the front entrance, and anyone who's worked in any kind of facility knows that you don't even necessarily have to do that. When was the last time you've ever seen an employee walk in through the front door of a major building like that? You don't. You don't see, ticket takers walking in the front door of like Staples Center, for instance. You don't. There's an employee entrance. There are reasons for that. It just looks better, and also it, makes it so that the employees can log in faster. They don't have to deal with customer traffic, etc., coming in and out. They don't have to block customer traffic coming in and out, etc. And so Danny feels like he needs to bring someone else in. And so Senator Cole is receptive to that, and Danny's going to go bring in a friend that he wants to assist him in figuring out what's going on with the senator. Smash cut from that to Mary walking through the other side of Belisara entrance, one of the other sides of the Belisara entrance. This is actually a side that I don't think we've seen before, so that's interesting. Our boy Clayman is sitting in Belisara with his agent Sandy, and as he does, we hear another musical cue here. It's What's Become of My Heart by Universal Production Music, and so we get to hear that on All Incarnations as the background music in Belisara. So Mary comes in and talks to Clayman and the conversation starts very interestingly.
Hi. So you tell people when they're gonna die?
Even I know not to use that as an opening line.
So Mary comes in, and she wants to know a little bit about herself. And I don't know if Mary thinks that this guy is a wizard, if she's thinking back to the magician that she briefly dated early on in the series, but she does a quick assessment from our boy Clayman. I mean, super quick. He asks her basic information that an actuary would ask: age, place of birth, occupation, etc., single, married. But then Mary breaks into her story when we get to the married part.
Marital status?
Single? Yeah, I wasn't engaged to this guy, Danny. Actually, he works here at the hotel. Maybe you met him.
I don't think so.
We were best friends all our lives, and when we finally took the next step, I just wanted it to work so badly. I was afraid that... I was just afraid.
Well, look, Mary, I've got to be honest. Without a detailed actuarial questionnaire, family medical history, I couldn't tell you how long you've got. Even then, it would be just an estimation. But I can tell you this. However long it might be, don't lead your life being afraid to take risks. It took me a while, but I finally figured out nothing ventured, nothing gained. But a Vegas girl like you should know that better than anyone.
I should, shouldn't I?
And so Mary has definitely got some inspiration from our boy Clayman here, and we'll see how that carries itself out through the remainder of the season, especially. But that is a key thing. That's a key thing for Mary for the rest of the season. I told you to start paying attention to Sam and her arc. Now it's time to start paying attention to Mary and the change in her arc as the season progresses. So Danny cuts back into the senator's room, and we see a hotel across from the Montecito that appears to be in construction. Mike is brought in on the case, and he's got a laser pointer that helps him figure out exactly a high beam one that can actually cut through. This is a super high beam because you can see the other side of it on the reflection of the window in the hotel that's being constructed across the street. Now, mind you, this is broad daylight, so you probably shouldn't see that. I don't know what exactly kind of laser Mike's got, but sure, it's super high end. Mike and Danny go into the other casino or the other hotel, and they see that it's in construction currently, and they're able to at least pinpoint the room that's supposed to be at. And Mike is starting to question something here.
It's an admirable sentiment, but you gotta admit, those pictures look pretty bad.
But if taken out of context, who knows, right?
So Danny wants to prove this guy's innocence. And Mike, again, very perceptive from his point of view, at least being devil's advocate, is asking exactly what the deal is. So apparently their glasses are reflective on all the casinos, particularly at night. If the lights are off, especially, keeps air conditioning down. And he's wondering if they can get a reflective view of Cole's room, which is a huge stretch even for this show. We've seen surveillance try to do the reflective view and actually get away with doing the reflective view, the backwards view of the camera, etc., multiple occasions to crack a case. I don't know how well that will work here, but they're going with that. In any event, Ed is sitting in the front desk area, and he's talking with Mr. Brunson about whether or not Ed is the one in charge of the casino. If Ed is the one that's going to be running the casino in his stead, and how they're going to do the whole Clayman spinning circumstance at the Montecito. It seems like Ed is in charge again. It seems like Brunson is giving him the ball so far, but we'll see. Mary comes up to Ed, super excited, super pumped from her conversation with Clayman, stressing how much of an inspiration he is in terms of changing her life, taking the bull by the horns, doing something with yourself.
Listen, you have got to let Clayman stay and spin. I was just talking to him, and his story, it is so inspiring. I mean, look at me. Look at my life. I've always been too afraid to make any changes. Why do you think I never left Vegas?
Did you see Sam?
It is because I have been so scared to lose what I already have. That's why I broke it off with Danny. You know, I was so scared that if things didn't work out, I would lose him as a friend too, but I never thought about what might be gained, you know? And talking to Clayman made me realize that life is all about taking risks. Nothing ventured, nothing gained.
You, see Sam?
Yeah. You just missed her. You might catch her out in the employee parking lot.
Did she say where she was headed?
No, you know Sam never tells anybody anything.
See ya.
Yeah. Hey, it was nice talking to you.
Ed could not have cared less about what Mary was talking about. Ed just wanted to find Sam. And Mary just wanted to talk to somebody about the rush of adrenaline that she got just from talking to Clayman. So imagine the rush of adrenaline Clayman's going to have when he does this spin. But neither one of them necessarily cared about what the other one was saying in that conversation. So the Kings are in surveillance, and they're looking at whatever footage they can try to get off of the exterior of the building from a different vantage point, but Mike's not able to get the correct angle in the rooms to be able to see much of anything.
Well, I pulled footage from all of our exterior surveillance cameras, including the roof, plus got traffic camera footage.
And?
I can't get the right angle.
It's a long shot anyway.
So Sam is about to take off, and she is stopped by Ed, who asked her to come meet her in the office, but she didn't do that. She apparently has something more important to take care of, and she's off to go do that right now. Now remember, earlier in the episode, Sam was too busy and even standoffish with Delinda about having to meet with Gunther later in the afternoon. This must be around that later in the afternoon time when Sam has to take off to go run whatever errand she's going to run.
Hey. Hi.
I asked you to come up to my office.
Yes. Did you need something?
I needed you to come up to my office.
Right.
Where are you going?
I have just this thing I have to take care of.
What thing?
It's personal. Why are you asking me all these questions?
Is everything okay, Sam?
Yeah, I'm okay. Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Okay. I gotta go.
So a tense confrontation here between Ed and Sam a little bit. Not necessarily super tense, but definitely suspicious. Sam even looks back at Ed on her way out because what's with the questioning? And as she takes off, Ed commandeers the vehicle of our boy Greg, the security guard.
Hey, Greg, stop. Let me borrow your car, okay?
Last time you borrowed my car, you wrecked it.
Get out. Come on.
All right. Hey, wait. Hit him. Real quick.
You plan on working today?
They're brand new.
Oh, man.
Good to see Greg coming into the fold, being more in the fold than he normally is here. They're expanding their secondary character arc here, and I love that. So Danny is up in the senator's office or room, not necessarily office room, sure, but they're talking about exactly what happened with the young girl that came into the room, how long she was there, etc. Danny is sort of at a crossroads here. They can't exactly track where she got it from, what's going on, and Danny asks why the senator doesn't just get out in front of it, which is a good idea, actually, for scandals. For a lot of politicians or high-end people, is just jump out in front of it so that it loses a lot of the steam that it would have had before. And the senator tells Danny that he and his wife have been having some issues with the traveling, etc., but that it wouldn't be a good thing to try to hop in front of it, at least from his vantage point, because it would bring a spotlight to his relationship, and that's not what he wants to have happen right now. So the senator's assistant comes in, Justin, and he brings the senator a manila envelope with a couple of incriminating images via DVD. Remember DVDs, kids? Yes. Via DVD that the senator and Danny watches. Mike says there's nothing necessarily different about the video than the images. It doesn't look like anything necessarily exonerates the senator or anything else. But one of these shots, you can see the girl looking out the window, and you can see her face. And with some digital enhancements, Danny is able to cross-check her face points with that of the DMV, and we are able to find out that the young girl has a match, gets the driver's license, and Danny sees something that we, as a general viewing audience, don't necessarily see immediately. You have to pause the video at a certain point to be able to see it on, say, a DVD or now streaming services, and that is that the girl is 16 years old, which, according to the ID, is true. We see from the ID, we see her name is Mindy DeStasi. We get a fake address at a real zip code in Las Vegas, 55110, birth date 1/21/89, which at the time of this airing would in fact make her 16 years old. And so Danny comes up and confronts the senator about what he found, and the senator's immediate reaction is that of, he didn't know, shocking, of this is just a terrible turn in this already terrible controversy.
Damn it, Danny. I mean, it's despicable.
Yeah, but then I got to thinking, back in the day, you always did kind of like him young.
Come on, Danny, we were kids, 18 years old.
No, I was 18, you were 25.
We were young. It was another life. I'm a father now. I have a daughter of my own. You don't think I'm capable? I swear on my children.
So Danny is starting to doubt the senator's intentions too with that scene. And that's very interesting and very important to note here, the turn that Danny is taking in terms of point of view with this case. And at this point, as a viewer, you start to question exactly what you've been seeing too, at least a little bit.
Why don't you take a little break?
Yeah, that's a good idea. I'm gonna stretch the legs, wash the face, refocus.
There you go.
Planning a party but can't get to Mystique.
Now we hear it's the hottest club in town.
It is, but it won't be if I rent it to you. No offense.
No worries. Let the action come to you. If you're in the Southern California area, let the vibrant, enthusiastic, and experienced event planners at Belizean Beauty's Liquid Creations
Go ahead and keep the party going.
from anniversaries to quinceañeras, birthdays to weddings, and everything in between, the Liquid Creations ladies have got you covered.
If there's anything else you need, please do not hesitate to call me. Have fun.
To book your next event, call 323-423-5866 or send a request either to krrromero9@gmail.com or on Instagram at liquid_creations with a K. Speaking of questioning what you've been seeing, Sam is on her way somewhere and followed not too far by Ed, which is why he commandeered Greg's car. And so we see Sam pulling into a parking space. As she does, we hear some music, another musical ID. I can't place the original song. Whatever the original song is, I think it's a production song made to sound like rap, but I can't place it. It may or may not be Rhymes Like These by Double O. Double O spelled the word double, and then O is an O money, O-W-E. That's questionable that that's what it is. That came up on the apps, but again, it's another one of these songs that you can't listen to anymore, lost in the ether, in the nebulous void of mid-2000s internet, and no one has access to it anywhere. If you're watching on the streaming services, the song is OG by Tom Ford, and that was made in 2020. Now, this is one of the instances, and I wonder if this is what happens sometimes with some of these songs. We looked back and we saw that they couldn't get some of these songs. They couldn't find some of these songs. I couldn't find some of these songs. A name might float out somewhere, but I can't hear it to confirm it on anything. And I wonder if with the restructuring of streaming services and doing stuff like this where you want to try to bring it back, if occasionally they'll try to reach out to the original rights owner to get like a cheapo price on it, or say, hey, can we just use this for streaming services or whatever? We're just updating the thing, just sign it and we can do the same deal or whatever. If they just can't get in contact with people, right? If they just couldn't get in contact with Double O to license his song for streaming, they had to go with something else. And so they would have to go with something like OG by Tom Ford, which is another, it sounds again like production music hip hop. I wonder if that's what happens a lot of the time, that they just can't find the rights owner anymore. Contact information changed since 2005. How many other emails have some of these people had? How many other agents have some of these people had? How many other contacts have some of the other people had? If the music department, I'm sure NBC or Universal wasn't tapping into the old Las Vegas music department. They may or may not still be tapping into maybe one of the other directors of music that they used that's not Charlie Clouseau. I'm sure Charlie Clouseau had nothing to do with this type of stuff, right? They might just have one person that is kind of overseeing the whole musical department that was from a show over 20 years ago. And so maybe they go through the list and they say, hey, Double O, can we use your music? Or, I can't get a hold of Double O. We're using something else. Contact me in the next 5 days so we can use your thing. And maybe Double O sees the number and thinks it's spam or scam or whatever and loses out on somebody being able to find his new stuff or find his old stuff or dig into his catalog or whatever. I wonder if that sounds plausible for stuff like this. And I was thinking about that. I'm like, they probably just couldn't find the guy because I couldn't find him. His name is too general for any of the streaming services, and it automatically wants to bounce you to something else. It's too general for streaming. It's clever, but it's too general for streaming services. He had to have gotten famous, like famous for that name to stick, and not exactly. So Sam pulls into the parking lot here at the PJs, and as she does, we see Greg's car pulling over somewhere different. Sam comes out of the car with a paper bag, a crumpled up paper bag. She gets buzzed into the PJs there as we see some different types of people hanging outside of it. Ed decides he's going to go in and follow her, and he absolutely does. Sam is looking over her shoulder as she's walking into the complex, but that's not odd. That I do that with places I'm familiar with even. And so as Sam comes in to the apartment that this young man lets her into, Ed barges into the apartment.
Get it?
Yep.
Excellent. What the hell's going on? Hey, who are you, man?
Oh, no, he's okay. Who's he? That's my boss.
That's your boss?
Yeah.
You sure?
Oh, yeah.
He don't look like I pictured him. I thought he'd be bigger.
That's another time. That seems to be a running trope with Ed. People seem to think he'd be bigger with the nickname Big Ed. But yes, that is Sam's boss, and introduced to J.J. Floyd, who is allegedly in 7th grade. And we see that Sam bought her a phone as positive reinforcement.
What are you doing here?
What the hell are you doing?
Well, it's none of your business.
It is my business.
She's my little sister.
Your little sister?
Yes.
Not her real sister. Her little sister, as in the Big Brother Big Sister program? Jeez, don't you know anything?
No, apparently not.
Yeah, no, apparently not, Ed. So Sam is not involved in any nefarious situations here. And Ed looks like, somebody who overreacted, which in this case he really did. We're gonna come back to this in a second, because I have thoughts on this whole Ed Sam trust situation, very similar to the thoughts I had on it back when it originally sprung up in my beautiful laundrette. So Danny pulls up to the address that we have for our girl Destrasi, and as he does, he meets her mom. I just noticed this. The address that he pulls up to, that's supposed to be the Destrasi house, the address number is not the same as is on her ID. On her ID, the address number is 1702. On the house number, it's 11964. So, not the same. Little detail that they didn't get right either in the shooting or in the post-production when they put the thing up. In any event, he's looking for her, and we see her mom, but apparently she hasn't seen our girl in 3 months. And he lets her mom know that she might be caught up in a prostitution ring, in an escort service, and her tone changes. So when she opens the door, she's like, yeah, I've been looking for her too. But as soon as she hears something like that, the mom in her kicks in, and she does give Danny at least the number that she got from the caller ID of where she was hanging out at.
I'm looking for Mindy Destasi.
Join the club.
She doesn't live here?
Used to. Haven't seen her about 3 months.
Oh. Are you her mother?
Afraid so.
Any idea where she might be?
She in trouble?
Well, I hope not. I think that she's involved with an escort service and might be in over her head. I just wanted to help her out.
Called her about 3 weeks ago. She wouldn't say where she was, but I got that number off caller ID.
And of course, because Danny knows everybody, he taps into one of his friends that he knows at the phone service. And so he's trying to get some information on our girl there. We cut back to the casino, and Flamin' Clayman shirts have been printed up, and they look terrible. But in any event, we've got reporters everywhere, and the producer is back meeting with the manager, Sandy Schultz, and apparently Ed is trying to navigate this whole circus that's around him. And Sandy is trying to navigate so that even if he does lose, he's not liable for the loss. The producer's trying to set up practice shots and stuff like that. And Ed takes Dan Clayman away from all that. Now, again, in real life, not exactly how that worked out. All that was taking place regardless. The casino was in on it. It's not like whoever was in charge of the casino was like, oh my gosh, this is such a... No, that's not what happened. Big Ed wasn't in charge of that casino. They were all involved in it. It was all the stuff that they're trying to avoid here pretty much happened in the real life case. But Ed brings Clayman up to his office and they have a talk about the situation and why Clayman has decided to do it. And Ed talks to him and tells him,
I just wanted to say that wanting to experience the thrill of risking it all, well, I think that's very brave.
You do?
Yes, I do. On the other hand, though...
on the other hand, what?
It's not very brave if there's nothing at stake, though, is it? I mean, that's what's his name there? Sandy was trying to negotiate. But he's just trying to protect you, I guess.
He's not trying to protect me. He's trying to protect his commission. We just met. He doesn't know me or care about what I want.
What is it that you want?
I want what I came here for. I want to bet everything I have on one spin of the roulette wheel. No safety nets, no endorsement deals, no consolation prizes. I want to risk it all.
I think that could be arranged. And good luck.
Thank you.
And so Ed might be coming to Dan's rescue, at least in this. Danny knocks on a room door, opens it, and finds Mindy DeStrassi there and wants to talk to her. Before we get further into the scene, let's talk about Mindy DeStrassi. Mindy is played by a young actress named Casey Wyant. Casey doesn't have the longest IMDb history, actually 6 things. The first thing you can see her on is Judging Amy as High School Girl. This is her second credit on Las Vegas as Mindy DeStrassi. And that's kind of it. She does a couple other things. She plays, so she went from playing Mindy to she played Mindy here, Mandy, and Mina. That's the most interesting thing on American Dreams and NCIS. And the latest thing you can see her in was in 2009 on Criminal Minds. She did an episode as Lisa. That's Casey Wyant. And here she is, I guess, being not saved. She's being, her conversation with Danny is being interrupted by her pimp, who breaks into the conversation and tells Danny,
Hey, buddy, whether you want to talk or anything else, the hourly rate is still the same.
Who hired you to send Minnie to Senator Close?
I don't know!
Tell me, you son of a bitch, I swear to God.
I'm serious, I don't know who the guy was. I got a phone call. He asked for a young girl under 18. I took the payment in cash in the parking lot, convenience store on Flamingo.
So does this mean you don't want to do anything?
Yeah, I do want to do something.
Really?
Come on. Taking it here, moving.
So good for Danny. Danny saves Mindy from the pimp, at least momentarily. She may end up going back later, but for as of right now, he at least is trying to send her back to her home and do the right thing there. And that confrontation, ironically, on the playground equipment, and I don't think that was necessarily ironically. I think that was entirely purposeful there. Good set dressing there to have the guy get his face smashed into playground equipment. We whoosh down to the casino after that. That's an act break, so you get some commercials to kind of break the tension before you come back in. As you do come back in, you hear another musical break here. What we're dealing with on the original is the song 72904, 7-29-04, The Day Of, by David Holmes. And you've heard that from Ocean's 12. I enjoy that song. I enjoy that movie. That's the great. I think Ocean's 11 is one of the greatest movies, one of the coolest movies ever, and that's one of the movies that you play when you're on your way to Vegas. I love Ocean's 12, even though Ocean's 12 gets a lot of flack. I liked Ocean's 12. I know all Ocean's 12 is an excuse for all of them to go travel to Europe. I really do enjoy Ocean's 12, though. I think it's a fun romp, except I wish Bernie Mac didn't have to do all the filming of his TV series at the same time, which kept him out of most of the movie, but I do like Ocean's 12, and I love the soundtrack, too. That's it. 13 I hated, and for me, I still acknowledge 13 as part of the franchise, though. I don't acknowledge any other movies as part of the Ocean's franchise. It stopped at 13. It was 11, 12, and 13, and that's where it ended. But this is the second song from the Ocean's franchise that I know of that is used on Las Vegas proper, which is interesting because they sort of coincide with each other they are really the two of the biggest media things that happened to raise the view of the city of Las Vegas, to bring the cool factor back to Las Vegas, which it kept for a number of years and now no longer has. It brought back the coolness of Las Vegas, so that team up works. So that song is what's playing on the original. On the DVD, it sounds like a production song. I can't place it. And if you're watching on streaming services, it's another production song, this time with AI. Again, you can tell it's AI because of how it ends. It's cleaner how it ends. It's not exactly too artificial, but it's artificial enough for you to notice that it's AI. And that's the problem with all this AI music, is it sounds artificial. It sounds fake. And so at a certain point you hear the fakeness in it, and that draws you out of the circumstance. But Clayman's got his $180,000 in chips, got the chip racks there, and he lays them all on the table, and he lays them on red. And as he puts the chips down squarely on red, he's looking to double up his money. Before the ball gets thrown and everything happens, Ed pulls him over and wishes him luck as Mary and Nessa are standing there with Ed. So we got our ace and my two favorite queens. And Clayman lets the roulette dealer roll the ball, and we hear the music. The David Holmes music from Ocean's 12 works perfectly. The music on the DVD works fine, and the music on streaming for this scene in particular works okay. It's not terrible, but the David Holmes music works absolutely perfectly, because what you get is the fade in of the half fade shots of the other people watching, particularly our queens and particularly Mary. You see the wheel spinning at the same time. You see Clayman's face at the same time. The cinematic aspect of this works with the David Holmes song so much. The tension builds. You can feel the excitement in the air. You can see the hope on Mary's face and the excitement on Sandy's face as it seems to be going in. But instead of hitting red, it hits...
Hey, relax.
Clayman loses it all. Now, again, this whole thing has been filmed. You have reporters there. No one's coming over immediately to interview him and ask him his thoughts on exactly what happened. In real life, that's not what happened. In real life, our boy actually landed on 7 red and went ahead and doubled his money. And a whole lot of other things happened with him at that point. So in real life, our boy took his winnings, which ended up coming out to about $461,045.36 in today's money after he won. So our boy went ahead and took his money and set up Poker UTD, which was an online betting service which went out of business due to frozen asset scandal. AKA, I'm guessing has something to do with, the way your money was sitting in the accounts or something like that. So the assets were frozen and it created an issue, and so the site went down. He then went on to be a part of another little service. I think that's still up, but that's the most I could find for that guy. But yeah, no, he actually won. He won. So, but as of the time of this, the poker service was still available. So the real life guy, Ashley Revel, his story is fine. We're back in surveillance, and the Kings are looking at the footage and are able to track down, at least from the convenience store, the car of whoever paid the pimp for the information on the senator. But the best they can do is a license plate. They can't exactly get a video ID of the person, but that's going to be a good place to start. So Ed is brought over to a little corner of the casino by Sam, and they talk about the situation with the little sister that Ed came across.
Doing that.
Yeah. What you saw today, I need you to keep that to yourself. I have an image to uphold.
I can do that.
I mean, I can trust you, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so then why were you following me? Listen, it doesn't matter. I can't be looking over my shoulder all the time.
I know. I'm really very sorry, Sam. I was wrong.
Yeah, you were wrong.
But, you kind of got to keep this to yourself because I have an image to uphold.
So we get that scene and we get the laughter in that scene, but I don't believe the laughter from either person. I don't believe it from Sam and I don't believe it from Ed. Also, Sam is right. She can't keep looking over her shoulder with Ed following her and trust issues and all the other stuff. Definitely, there are certainly trust issues when it comes to Sam and Ed and what's going on there. All from the My Beautiful Laundrette thing. Again, and these trust issues with Sam and Ed, Sam and authority figures in the Montecito, Sam and the Montecito become issues as a result of that episode. I don't like that. You don't need, for Sam, especially her character and the history that she's had, especially with stuff like her history with Grissom and all that other stuff, you don't need to add that layer for Sam's trust issues to come up and be an issue. And you can maybe even add some stuff with her and Casey. You can talk about how she didn't know Casey's wealth, etc., and that had some weird, strange, because it is kind of strange, effect on her and her relationship with Casey. You can do that. You can go from that angle. But this whole thing has been artificial from the start. I never liked the issue with Sam and Ed and the trust issues that they have with each other, where it came from, and how sudden it seemed to be. I think here they're trying to kind of nip it in the bud or change it from a certain place to make it slightly more, I almost want to say real, but it's not. Ed's reaction was off the rails. Ed coming in, to barging into some apartment that he didn't know in the PJs. You don't do that. You should. It's Ed of all people should know. That's a terrible thing to do in that kind of situation. Like why didn't he ask? Why didn't he check where she went? Did a background check? Even if he had just like followed her to the apartment and seen kind of checked on the apartment, he probably would have seen that it belongs to JJ and Jamal. And they probably are in the big sister, little sister program or something. You know what I mean? If he had just run a background check, he probably would have found something else out other than just barging in there, other than following her, other than having the PI. And the PI didn't seem to be looking into any of that stuff. She was just following Sam around. So that whole thing, I hate. The stem of that, I hate. And bringing it back here and having that, it's not even resolute. It's not even the finish of it. Because the issues with Sam and her trust issues with the authority figures at the Montecito is going to continue, and it's going to be a continuing thread through Sam's essentially existence as a character in the Montecito, which again in of itself as a layer is fine if it's built on something better. Not only is it not built on something better, but the follow-up here in this episode isn't good either. Luckily, it's short, but it's not good either. I hate it. I'm not a fan of it. So we cut to the senator's room, and Danny comes in, and he tells the senator that his assistant, Justin, is the one blackmailing him. Apparently they got the tape of him going to the convenience store that was his car or his rental car or something that they were able to ID. And Justin gives his supervillain speech.
Justin? You think I don't know what you've been doing? It's my job to be unobtrusive, to be here when you need something and to go unnoticed when you don't. Well, it looks like I've been doing my job a little too well, because you've gotten awfully careless with your behavior, Senator.
I don't know what you're
You
talking
know exactly what I'm talking about. The underage girls are a habit with him.
What, have you lost your mind?
I've got phone numbers of girls in Laughlin, Reno, Henderson, you name it. Receipts. He paid for some of the escort services using his credit card. Once he even asked me for a little petty cash to cover it. I got plenty of circumstantial evidence, but I never had anything concrete. That's why I set this up.
Detective, this is ridiculous. You heard him himself. He set me up.
Sir, put your hands behind your back.
Did you miss it? Here, I'll play it again.
Detective, this is ridiculous. You heard him himself. He set me up.
Sir, put your hands behind your back.
Did you catch that? So when Danny calls in Luis, the very first reaction from the senator is, oh, this is ridiculous. You heard it. He set me up. The very first reaction from the senator is to proclaim his innocence again because he thinks the police are coming in to arrest him. Did you catch that? I caught it. The first rewatch, I caught it. But yes, so the detectives come in to take Justin for blackmailing, the senator's assistant for blackmailing. And Danny's facial expression looks like he caught something too. Like he kind of heard something there and is kind of processing it. But the senator breathes a sigh of relief as Danny leaves. And you can see that the senator might have dodged a bullet there. Hold on a second. Let's get a new deck in here and we'll be right back. You're listening to For My Ebony by Anthony Njoku. If you like what you're hearing, want to hear it again or hear more, go to tinyurl.com/anjoku. That's tinyurl.com/ANJOKU. We cut to Belisara, and our boy Clayman is sitting in the bar drinking a water. As we do, we hear another musical cue here. I'm not able to place the song on the original or the DVD version, but I don't think it's a production song because, again, on the streaming service version, it's an actual song. The song is I Go to Pieces by Adam Saunders and Joel Bevan on Peacock and Roku. So there's probably another either production song by a production house or company or something like that that may or may not still be in business, or a jazz song or something like that that's playing underneath, and maybe they can get a hold of the person, maybe not. For whatever reason, the background music here, and I can't place it. Like, it doesn't even pop up as a name. So I can't place it on any of my apps, but there was a song that was playing there on the original version, and it's not anymore. So Clayman is sitting there kind of drowning his sorrows there, and Ed comes in, and Clayman tells him that he doesn't have any money left.
He's having.
Okay, boss. It's just water. I don't have any money left, remember?
Oh, about that, something came for you.
$180,000? You giving me my money back?
No. Casinos can't do that. That's your fee for the TV special.
But I thought, I was prepared to lose everything. That was the point. I told Sandy I didn't want any money. I thought that was the deal.
Yeah, well, I made a new deal. No commission.
No commission indeed, Ed. Of course you did make the new deal. And again, that's probably what happened with Rebel. I couldn't find much else, but Rebel probably was going to get a fee of some kind for his appearance, etc. I don't know how it works over in England. Here in America, he probably would have ended up getting paid scale, even just for the appearance on a reality show, just for being able to do that. So it probably wouldn't have been complete loss of money, and he probably would have been able to make it back either way, just from the publicity of being able to go back. And you know what I mean? He probably would have made more money anyway. So it wasn't going to be much of a loss. But Clayman here is drowning in sorrows. Clayman tells Ed that he doesn't know how to thank him and that he's now okay with being safe.
I thought my life was so boring, but these last few hours, all I could think about was how to get back what I had before.
Now, get on the internet and start buying your stuff back.
No, I'm not talking about my things. I'm talking about my life. My safe, boring life. I guess losing everything made me appreciate what I already had.
Yeah, but that's what usually happens. Anyway, buy him a drink.
Will do.
See you.
That is very often what happens. And it's interesting for him to sit and contemplate that, because I was thinking about this as I was doing the rewatch again with these big things. He wants to rush, etc. What about what happens there's always an after. There has to be a morning after, as someone was saying. What happens after that? You know what I mean? You have to go home. And this is one of the reasons why athletes, stars, rock stars, etc., they very often fall into different addictions, because after the show there has to be an after the show is over, right? After the concert is over, you're pumped up, you're singing the tunes on your way back home, right? And you may or may not have a glass or two on your way to sleep if you haven't already at the concert, if you're not already, you know what I mean? And that'll drift you off to sleep or whatever. You might just be overtired from the super hype and access of going to the thing, and you take all your stuff off and you were able to drift off to sleep at some point and come back, generally speaking, to your normal life relatively quickly. These artists, they have to deal with that rush on a regular basis. There is a morning after. How do they deal with that morning after? Very often, nightcap. Very often, another party to help keep those endorphins running. Professional wrestling, same thing. Even though I was on a much lower scale than WWE, I was still on the indies here in Southern California, still dealing with superstars that are now superstars in WWE, etc. And after the shows, it was still, okay, how do you come down from the after the show? How do you bring your energy level back to, even after practice? So you would do the training for wrestling during the week, have your shows on the weekend, and during the week, it's like, okay, I got to get to work tomorrow. How do I come? That's one of the reasons why I don't like working out at night, generally speaking, especially if I have a job and have to get up in the morning, etc. By the way, patreon.com/the Podecito if you want to help support your boy and not having to do that. Anyway, you have to come down just from working out at night, right? Because your endorphins are running. So even if you're not necessarily on the same high you were when your pre-workout first started kicking in, your body's at a different level energy-wise than it normally would be because of the activity that you're participating in. So what happens afterwards? How do you deal with the afterwards? How do you deal with, and when it does, there is a come down. And you have to, that come down, one way or the other, is gonna happen. Where that come down happens with a drink, with a smoke, with another party, with a girl, with whatever, with video games. A lot of people are doing now, not high profile people are doing video games to come down. Whatever the come down is afterwards, certain TV that you watch, whatever, food, whatever the come down is, the come down happens whether gradually or suddenly it comes down. And this guy, Clayman, his come down was quick and harsh. There was no after party. There was no nothing afterwards. It was, you're at Belisara and you're drinking water because that's all you could afford. And if you've ever been at Vegas, back in the old days, when you could have those kinds of adventures where you could do like something cheap after a bad bad time at the tables. You know what that feeling is like, right? And that come down is going to happen. It's going to happen quick. What happens on the aftermath? How are you going to feel on the aftermath? And maybe Clayman's never had that happen before, so he never factored that in, ironically enough, as an actuary. But I was sitting there and I'm like, what is going to happen on this come down if he loses? What's going to happen on this come down if he wins? Now, it's not anything too egregious or anything too emotionally deep here, which I kind of thought it would be, especially for, like, they could do with some halfway decent pontificating here for Clayman on the come down, if that's what they wanted to examine. Because they went against the story of our boy Rebel and him winning all those winnings. They could have done something here where they examine the other side of it, what happens if he does lose. But they didn't. Maybe they felt like they didn't have time for it. Maybe they felt like it was too cramped full of stories. I don't think it was, because we don't see all our players of the Montecito have substantial arcs in this episode. So I don't think it was that necessarily full, but they could have gone further with the Clayman story here, and I feel like they didn't. And I feel like it was truncated a bit for whatever production reasons it was. So Mary comes into the casino, and she meets up with Ed, who tells her about Clayman and him getting not his money back, but his fee for his appearance, which isn't unprecedented. We saw that with Lonnie in her situation. She got paid for her appearance. She got paid the whole thing for her appearance. And Ed tells her,
He just didn't quite know what he wanted.
You do?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. What do I want?
You? You would like to meet your secret admirer.
You know about that?
That surprises you?
It's not really.
So Ed brings up the secret admirer, which I bet you forgot, because we haven't talked about that much since it came up in 2 episodes. Did it even get mentioned in the last episode? I don't know that it got mentioned. No, it probably didn't get mentioned, because Mary was only in it in the very, very beginning to introduce Lola. So probably didn't get mentioned in the last episode at all. So it would have been an episode before that, maybe. It's very, so did you forget about the secret admirer? Apparently they didn't, bringing it back up here. Mary says she's surprised that Ed didn't know that. So that makes me wonder if just Sam is that secretive with her private life and the big sister, little sister program that Ed wasn't able to find that out. If the private eye wasn't good enough or whatever that is, but that's one thing that Ed didn't know. But here he talks to Mary, and Mary says that he wants to meet for a drink, but she's a little nervous. Curious, but nervous.
He seems like a really nice guy. Like a perfect guy. On the other hand, maybe he's an axe murderer. So...
Would you like me to come along with you?
Would you?
Yeah, it'd be my pleasure.
Thank you.
And we see that very sweet moment between Ed and Mary. I like that moment, as out of context as it seems, as incongruent as it might seem with other things that we've seen even in this episode with Sam and Ed. I do like that moment because it does reiterate the sort of paternal-child relationship almost that gets projected here on the crew of the Montecito. Ed is the father figure. And for someone like Mary in particular, who has issues with her, to say the least, issues with her father and getting a, not replacement, but, that whole part of her life is different. To see her embrace Ed and have more play in that area where Ed kind of does step in that role for Mary. I don't even know if that's happened much on the series. I think we've seen more Danny play the brother role when he's not the lover, but I don't think we've seen much in the way of So Mary has family. I don't think we've seen much. We've seen her be sisterly with the other girls, but I don't think we've seen much in the way of Ed being the paternal figure to Mary, really. If we have, it's been a while. So we cut back to Belisara. Nessa's walking through, and Mike is there to meet her. Again, what we hear on the speakers is a continuation. It's a different version of whatever song is playing. So on the original or DVD, can't place it. And on the streaming services, it's I Go to Pieces. So Mike is sitting there and got a cup of tea for Nessa, and he knew that Nessa was coming through.
How did you know I'd be passing through?
Well, based on the floor schedule, I figured you'd be taking a break right about now. Transversing Belisara is the most direct route to the employee lounge, so...
Impressive.
Yeah.
That sound familiar? Does that sound Mike planning, having in his head where the trajectories are going to go, where she was going to be, who, this, that, or the other? Does that sound familiar to you? Sounds familiar to me. I immediately jet back to him and Angie. It's slightly different, but I think that's just a part of Mike's personality when it comes to certain things and certain people and certain interactions with certain people, right? So he compliments Nessa, and he thinks back the other day to when Ed sort of caught them looking and smiling at each other, and that brings Mike up to the idea that him and Nessa have been close friends, but that's something he's definitely been thinking about.
About how the last few weeks we've become much better friends.
Yeah, I guess we've been hanging out more.
The thing is, Ness...
I like that, because Nessa she knows what's happening. Nessa understands what's about to take place right here. She can feel the winds of change at her back here when it comes to her relationship with Mike and the friendship.
Just being friends with a girl is cool and all, but usually it's just this level friend. When it gets up to this level, we start asking ourselves...
What would it be like to sleep with her?
Exactly.
He's not wrong. Mike is not wrong. He is very right. He is very correct. He is... And this is a thing, that shouldn't be, that shouldn't be, it shouldn't be. No, it is what it is. You and me, baby, ain't nothing but mammals. Get it? It happens. It's there. That thought is there. That thought process is there, generally speaking. Are there exceptions to the rule? Sure. Far fewer exceptions than you think. That's why they're exceptions. Far fewer exceptions than polite company allows you to communicate, but it is still there. It is still what is thought about. It is still what happens in guys' brains and guys' heads, etc. It's still there. It's still there. So Nessa comes in and says that she's not looking for a serious relationship.
Read you loud and clear. Yeah, I get that. But I just thought, if we could just get that pesky question out of the way, we could be even better friends. Friends for the ages.
We have sex one time.
Just get it out of the way. It's kind of like when you got a pebble in your shoe. Once you get rid of it, everything gets real comfortable again.
Smooth, Mike. Smooth. Equate having sex with her with getting a pebble out of your shoe. Mikey, the coolest man in Vegas. I wouldn't use that line. But this is very reminiscent to me as a TV watcher of the whole Seinfeld Elaine thing, where they take the this and combine it with the that. It's been tried throughout the ages on TV and in real life, and Mike is taking his shot right here.
And not to be immodest, but let's just say I don't think anyone has ever left the Canon boudoir disappointed.
I'll think about it, Mike.
Now, we're not counting Nina St. John. We're saying that that's not Mike's fault. And a couple episodes later, we see that Nessa's not throwing that in his face. So maybe she's rejected that. But she's also just thinking about the concept that Mike is proposing here. And it's not exactly what she was thinking about, not exactly the conversation she thought she would have at the time. And I don't think Mike thought that he would have this conversation either. So we cut to the conference room in surveillance, and Danny is looking over the photos that he got from Justin of the senator with younger girls. Luis comes into the conference room, and Danny shows Luis the pictures.
Justin, Cole's assistant, must have sent those to me just before he got busted.
You think this kid's telling the truth?
Yeah.
Some of these girls can't be more than 15, 16 at the most.
I'd have given my life for that guy.
Danny. So we get that conclusion to that, but that's the conclusion. Like that's an unsatisfactory conclusion. You know what I mean? Now that's a real life conclusion. That's a conclusion that you would probably get in real life, and most of the time you do get in real life, and 99.9% of the time that's the conclusion you're going to get in life on a situation like this, especially with a politician, a second generation, at least second generation, multi-generational politician. That's probably going to be what you get. But on this TV show, that is the that's the third, I'm going to call it the third unsatisfactory resolution that we've gotten from the side stories that we've gotten this episode so far. But we're not done with the episode yet. We'll come to that in a second. I'm not happy with that. We'll come to that in a second when we get to the ratings. So Luis asks Danny he says he wants to talk about his deployment.
My reserve unit's been called up. I'll be in Iraq within the week. I need to know what I'm getting into.
Let's grab a beer.
So as Danny and Luis go to grab that beer, the episode ends and we fade to black. That will be the last time we see Luis on Las Vegas. You can guess why, but that is the last showing from Guy Ecker on Las Vegas. And I didn't know it was coming up this quick. I wish I did. I didn't know it was coming up this quick, but that's the last time we get to see Guy Ecker on Las Vegas. Luis, one of my favorite B, C characters on the show. I do like me some Luis coming in, but that's the last time we get to see him on the show, and that's a shame. This episode in general is a general downer. The high rating that it got, especially from Las Vegas the series, is entirely too high. The resolutions, right? So not everybody gets to play. Delinda's out very quickly. You could have examined something more with her and her interest in the senator, even though the senator's married. You could have seen a little bit more from her on that end, if you're going to see more from her at all, unless you wanted to put her in the Clayman story and have her and Nessa talk about Mary's infatuation with the thing. But in any event, we don't see much of Delinda, so her little thing is thrown off. The Clayman story is disappointing because they didn't and it almost felt like they cut off these stories prematurely, but they did it neat enough so that it's almost feels like that was the intended resolution for these stories anyway. But because they don't feel satisfactory at all and aren't going to continue, most of them aren't going to continue. It's not like they don't feel satisfactory, so tune in next week to get a more satisfactory resolution or more story on top of what you just saw. It's just an unsatisfactory but neat enough ending to these storylines. So we have the Delinda thing, we have the Clayman thing, which just sort of kind of ends. Like, it's not even with the Lonnie thing, you felt better about it, and maybe it's because you had felt more of a connection with Lonnie than you do with Clayman. Like, Clayman didn't necessarily reach the hearts and minds, to me, of the viewer. He did to Mary, but I've seen Jerry Burns do better work than this. Maybe it's what he had. Maybe it was how he directed. But I've seen Jerry Burns do better work than this. We will see Jerry Burns do better work than this later in other series like Psych. But this isn't great. And the Senator issue. We get the resolution, but it feels... Danny with the save, he does his Danny thing, his heroic thing. There's nothing wrong with Danny necessarily in this episode. He's playing Danny. He's loyal to the guy who was loyal to him, at least at the time, until he gets new information and then he changes his mind, etc. But it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel like a proper resolution to it. Now, again, that's the real life resolution. In real life, that's probably how this resolves. It probably doesn't resolve for years. That's probably how it resolves, is just a rumor, innuendo that probably really doesn't go anywhere. That doesn't even really get reported on by anybody. That doesn't even become a story that leaks to the press or gets to the press or anything. It probably just ends on Luis's desk, if we're being honest. Probably just dies there. But on the show, this fantasy show, especially with the other two not really great resolutions that we get, you would maybe hope for something there. And if you don't get something there, then you would hope for a better resolution to the Sam and Ed thing. But that does not happen. And this episode, the continuation of it, Ed's overreaction, the whole thing, where they went with it, at this point, it almost would have been better if they just let it die and pretended like it didn't happen. Because that just... And also, it feels a bit, with these storylines, that it might be another instance of, and we talked about this before, where they had what maybe felt like too many stories, even though they didn't have that many stories to juggle. But it felt like there wasn't time enough to engross and explore all the issues, or enough of the issues and enough of the stories to make them stick more and make them feel more resolute. And so you had these 3 different stories when this episode probably should have been closer to 2. This is on the heels of them successfully juggling multiple stories and making it look effortless. And you can see in this episode the effort. So my rating for this episode, nowhere near as high as probably any of them. I would say this episode... kind of leaning towards a 6, because it's not. I'm not walking away feeling like, what a refreshing Las Vegas episode. I'm not walking away like I hate this episode either necessarily. I hate the Ed Sam stuff, but luckily it was mercifully short. But 6 is that's even, I guess, being generous, because I would say this episode was meh. If I'm going to say this episode was meh, that's a 5. Meh is 5. Meh is middle. Middle is 5. 5 out of 10, that's middle. So, meh. I feel like this episode was meh. I don't even know if I would necessarily want to be generous and give it anything higher than that. I don't know if there was a standout performance, really. For me, I don't know if there's necessarily a standout performance. And this is the last time we're going to see Luis. Man, 5. 5 out of 10. 5 out of 10. This episode is mad. This almost feels like a filler episode, even though we are going to see some stuff is going to happen off of this episode. It is going to help traject a couple of different things, a couple of different shippers. But that's very small potatoes in the grand scheme of this episode that I thought was not the greatest episode. That's my opinion, though. My opinion doesn't necessarily matter. Your opinion is the one that matters. How wrong am I? Tell me how wrong I am. You know you want to, especially after hearing my rating for that episode. I know you want to tell me how wrong I am. So go ahead and do that. Let me know how wrong I am in all the places that you normally do, especially on Twitter. Hit me up on Twitter, the Podecito, and we can talk about this episode and what you think of it. If you are able to support non-monetarily, and that's the best way you can support, that happens, that's fine. I understand and appreciate that. Well, guess what? Sharing is the best way to do that. The curse of my podcast is that people who listen to it love it, but they don't share it with people. They don't share the links. They don't post it on their social medias. They're keep it to themselves. This is not something you want to keep to yourself, the Podecito. You want to share the Podecito with people. Even if it's just dropping a link somewhere, you want to share the Podecito with as many people as you can to help get the word out of the Podecito. Publicity is good for the show. That's the best way you can help support if you are not monetarily inclined to do so. If you are monetarily inclined to do so, terrific. You can get yourself on the support train for the Podecito. You can be a high roller. You can be a director of entertainment services like our boy Anthony. You can be all sorts of things. You can be what you want to be here at the Montecito, at the Podecito. I'm not the Montecito, at the Podecito Rewatch podcast. You can do that via Coffee, ko.fi. You can do that Buy Me a Coffee. You can do that Patreon. You can do that Cash App. Those are the ways that you can help support monetarily if you can do so. And perks come along with that. Different gifts and stuff that you get as well. So those are the best ways to help support monetarily if you're inclined to do so. We appreciate you doing so. Next episode is Hit Me next week. And that episode to me is a little bit better. IMDb doesn't rate it as better, but to me that episode is better. It's got some issues too, but next episode is a little bit better to me. But we'll get into that next week. I think it's got a lot more fun elements than this episode does, for sure. It's got a lot more laughs than this episode does, for sure. It's got an interesting topic at the heart of it, for sure. But it's definitely got some better moments to me. But that's next week. I appreciate you coming along with us this week. I hope to see you next week for Hit Me here on the Podecito. In the meantime, in between time, thank you for joining me for this episode. And I'm going to try to get it. I don't even have a cute quip at the end of that because this episode was not, I don't think it deserved a cute quip. So I will say, until next week, please take care.